Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the July 2nd, 2019 solar eclipse in Cancer, part 2 of 2. Anyway, continuing from what I was saying yesterday, it's also important to look at the aspects this makes electionally, as this could impact the delineation and interpretation. Now, it will make a long opposition to Saturn. I know I said in the previous video, okay, there were no major adverse aspects this is making, but you could argue that this is a long opposition to Saturn if you're using a long orb, and depending on what orb actually you're using. But the thing about this is now, given this, people may encounter opposition at this time from cold and callous authority figures, career responsibilities, maybe adversarial, and also the Sun opposition to this suggests perhaps going away. It's really at this time you're really trying to go away from these perhaps these ruthless, these cold authority figures at this time in career-related matters. But there could also be a greater propensity with the Sun making that rather long opposition to Saturn, greater propensity perhaps for mechanical defaults and breakdowns. Perhaps the chassis, considering that's the skeleton. In many cases, remember that Capricorn and Saturn could be connected with the bone, something somewhat flippant like this, but I wouldn't be surprised if many encountered those kind of problems. Now, the thing about this is, because of the propensity for perhaps mechanical defaults, it might be better to wait until the Sun is making a separating opposition from Saturn, perhaps. Now, again, it can indicate a stronger proclivity for those mechanical defaults and breakdowns. Now, also, too, there's going to be a number of retrograde planets at the time, so there could be a little bit more delay in connection with this solar eclipse energy. Now, another thing, too, is that some of you sports fans may have heard that there's been some fervent speculation regarding NBA superstar Kevin Durant leaving the Golden State Warriors during free agency this season. Now, NBA free agency, the period starts at around July 1st. So at this time, it would not surprise me. I believe it is July 1st. So July 2nd would be the solar eclipse day, the day after perhaps that first day of free agency. I would not be surprised at that time or somewhere in close proximity to that date that Kevin Durant will make that decision as far as transitioning to another team and finding a different home somewhere that's career related, because I don't know Kevin Durant's birth time, but in his solar sunrise chart, he would have the solar eclipse would take place in his 10th house of career, and this is going to be, obviously, it's something that's going to give him a lot of exposure and notoriety. Not that he doesn't have enough already, but because it would take place in that 10th house, I would not be surprised if that announcement is made at or very close to the July 2nd solar eclipse in Cancer. Now, the thing about it is, too, that could suggest a home-related decision that would impact his career, and this is something that could be a monumental change for Kevin Durant at this time. And another thing, too, looking at this, what's important about this, too, also, if you want to look at it as far as Sabian symbols go, now, this is going to fall at 10 degrees Cancer. So given that it's at 10 degrees Cancer, it could indicate, it could give some reckless energy to this. It's important to review past experience to avoid replicating failings of the past at this time, and also it could be inadvisable to initiate anything associated with liquids, such as something with water or oceanography, or investing in chemicals or liquid products. So especially if you're doing an investment in some kind of chemicals or liquid products, especially say if this is hitting like the 2nd or the 5th house. 5th house is investment, speculation, astrology. 2nd house, of course, is monetary matters. So anyway, It's really, and it's also, I mean, this is just something to keep in mind that also at this time, when you look at other transits going on, they'll be intensified given that it's going to take place on the solar eclipse in Cancer. Venus will be very close to 29 degrees Gemini at this time when this exact positioning of the solar eclipse takes place. So a lot of people may be ending rather superficial relationships, and when you're talking about a new moon solar eclipse in Cancer, that could be that could signify perhaps embarking on something that's got a little more emotional depth to it and a little bit more feeling, more unequivocal love. So that's what you could be seeing at this time, as well as how that could be manifesting. So anyway, people, um, that will conclude this YouTube astrological segment for my take on the July 2nd, 2019 solar eclipse in Cancer, part 2 of 2. And stay tuned next time, where I will be continuing my monthly horoscope series. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, a person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.